Hello and welcome to The Olive Tree with me, Julia Fisher. This programme is designed to give you an insight into what life is like in Israel and the West Bank for both Jewish believers and Arab or Palestinian Christians. My guest today is Shirel Ben Haim. We met recently in Netanya, a town just north of Tel Aviv. She's a young woman currently studying at a university in Israel. She is Jewish, but she wasn't born in Israel. In this interview, she describes what it's like moving from one country and culture to another, especially to a place where there is conflict.
I was born in Russia, and me and my mom, we moved to Israel when I was 9. And I've been living here since then. So basically, most of my life I live here.
Do you remember much about living in Russia?
The snow. That's about it. Not too much. I have memories, but with time they become more and more vivid. And I haven't visited Russia, so that probably another reason.
So why did your mother come?
My mom heard from God. I mean, she's Jewish for once, and she heard from God that it's her calling to leave her house and everything she owned, to sell it and come to Israel.
So that was a very big step for her. And just as an aside, has she settled well in the country and learnt the language and got on with things?
Well, yes, I think even as Russian culture known to be like a hard culture to get, to get used to any other culture, because it's kind of, we have our own, I guess, rituals. I don't know how you call them, but my mom did. She knows Hebrew pretty well, and she speaks fluently in English. She actually learned English as well. And yeah, so I think she managed well.
So you went through school. Obviously, the language has been something that you've picked up very quickly.
I had to. Actually, my first year was quite a difficult year because the first 3 months I've just sat in class not knowing a word in Hebrew, and there was no class to teach me Hebrew, nothing. So I just sat there and listened to the language I don't know. And that's probably the best way to catch it, because you catch it pretty fast.
From there, you went into the army. And what was that? What sort of an experience was that for you?
Well, as I'm the only child, so basically that fact and going to the army I had in my, in my group, I had 70 girls. So sharing a room with 8 girls for 4 months in a tiny, tiny room that basically is almost, I think it's even smaller than my room right now. So it was quite difficult, but that's how you grow up, and that's how you manage. That's how you know, communication, relationship with people, that just grows there. So,
at the same time, you came to the congregation here in Netanya. So you went into the army as a believer in Yeshua. Was that a challenging time for you and your faith?
Yes, actually my time, because I was grown up, and my mom was a believer when I was raised. So basically I was raised into a believing home. So that was kind of a faith that was given to me, as you can say. I mean, so I think I didn't have any doubts until the age of 17 probably, that I've started questioning myself. Is it really for me? Is it really mine? Is it like my relationship with my mom is so close? Maybe I just, she gave it to me and that's it. So I started questioning. So even before the army, I kind of started pulling back a little bit. And during the army time, I pulled back a lot, because, you don't have too much time to go to congregation, because mostly sometimes you're at the base, and when you're home, you want to sleep. That's it. And I think after the army, I started questioning myself, okay, now 2 years gone, it was like a pause I put on God, I don't know if I believe or I don't. actually at the Musalaha trip, that was the turning point for me, that I knew that it's something I want for myself. And
now, Musalaha is an organisation that's involved in reconciliation between Arab and Jewish children. So you got involved in this.
yes, actually my first time was earlier when I was, I think, 16. So it wasn't my first time at Musalaha camp, but that was, I think, this third one that I went to. And I actually didn't want to go because after the army, I had a strong belief that I should defend my country, and I don't like any Arabs, and I don't want to speak to them, and it's easier to not know anyone there, so it's easier to it doesn't affect you that much. You don't know anyone, you can hate, you can do whatever, there's no relationships. And so I was kind of terrified of going, and I said no. Actually, the first time Evan asked me to come, and I said, well, I haven't been to congregation for 2 years. Why are you asking me? I'm not sure I'm a believer. And he said, well, I have a strong feeling from God that that's the place for you to be right now. And so I said, well, if it's God's plan, then let him work out. Because I had a job that I was committed to. And I knew my boss wouldn't allow me to go there. So I said, well, I'll ask my boss, and if he gives me the opportunity, then I'll come. So of course my boss said no. So I said, well, that was an easy one. And I think 2 or 3 weeks before the trip, somehow God worked it out and I could go. So yeah, that was a big turning point for my life. I could say that a growing point, because I knew God before. I always knew God exists. That's not the issue. But having it reassuring, kind of a reassurance to myself that God is my God, was there. I knew I'm not going back anytime soon.
What was it like for you, though, Shirel, having that realization and that coming back to God in your own life, but at the same time having to meet the enemy, in inverted commas, and deal with that and open your heart to those Arab people?
I think as a person who came, I actually am an immigrant, so I came from Russia. I think for me, from the beginning, it was a little bit easier to accept the concept of Jews and Arabs living together and being okay with it. But then the army changes your views a little bit, because you have to defend your country. You have to be careful. You're taught certain ways, and you're kind of not brainwashed, but there is certain things that you're afraid. You're basically taught to be afraid of Arabs war. During the time that I served, that was quite a difficult time in Israel, and all the bombings and all the terrorist attacks that was going on. So we were actually prepared to look around, to be suspicious, to question. So when I entered, I said, well, I'll just listen. I wouldn't say too much. I'll just look around and see if I have something to say. And then when it's actually started quite different than usual. It started as they built a program that the first week of our trip was to know and reconcile within yourself. And the second week was trying and reconciling between Jews and Arabs, or Jews, Arabs, Palestinians, and actually Americans were participants. So it was kind of a mixture. So for me, that was the key point, because the first kind of week was for me just reassuring me that, God exists, that there are more people that are, like me. I have doubts, that dealt with them, and just sharing this with them, all the difficulties and heartbrokenness, and just, it was a really powerful week. And going with Jews and Arabs together, that really helped building a relationship first, before dealing with any of the political or any of debates or hurts between ourselves. Like, it was just looking inside yourself and seeing what's wrong. What can I be reconciled within me?
So it was it was a positive experience for you.
It was, definitely. And yeah, I can say a changing point in my life, so yes.
So in your 20-something years, you've come from Russia, you've been educated here in Israel, you've been through the army, now you're at university. How do you see your life going forward? What are you expecting to see happen in your life? What are your hopes and dreams? What are you hoping God will do with you?
Well, I definitely hope to get a vision of what God wants me to do. I'm quite uncertain what I'm studying, if that would be the job for me or the area, I want to serve God, but I want to serve people and want to serve God, and I want to have a strong, I want God to reassure me that, He has a plan and that I will know what it is when time comes.
And when you think about staying and living in Israel for the rest of your life, how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm excited. I love Israel. That's basically, if you tell me right now, oh, do you want to go back to Russia? We'll give you a house there. I would say, well, it's not a home for me anymore. Israel is. So I don't see myself living somewhere else.
Shirel Ben Haim, a young woman finding her way after emigrating to Israel from Russia. And you're listening to The Olive Tree with me, Julia Fisher. And the Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund is a Christian charity based in the UK that supports the needs of both Jewish believers and Arab Christians living in Israel and the wider Middle East. If you would like to know more about our work and receive our free bi-monthly newsletter, please either visit our website, olivetreefund.org, or write to me, Julia Fisher, at the Olive Tree Reconciliation Fund, PO Box 850, Horsham, RH12 9GA in the UK. Thank you for your company today. I'll be back at the same time next week for another story from the Olive Tree. Until then, goodbye.